Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, April the 20th, 2020. Ooh, that's a number right there, isn't it? But anyway, we are Mr. Video Games, brought to you by Dead Sun Entertainment. Another lo-fi episode this week, as I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but hey, did you know we might be in the middle of a pandemic going on, and talking about video games in the first place, maybe not on everyone's boat, but we're still here because, hey, we like talking to you guys, and it keeps us sane. Of course, I am Slacker Kite. I basically hit the button so that the feed goes on the thing and into your face meets and ears. And I am here for this show today. Of course, here with me, as always, our returning bestest friends in the whole world. We got the best boy. It's Brian, aka Wonder Boy, in the house today.
Best boy? Is that what you said? I don't know about best boy, but I'll take it. It'll work for me. God, all this talk about pandemics, shit. I get it. It's weighing on me, but also like, I can't divorce that from the fact that I keep having to look at my Twitter feed and seeing how dumb Brian Kemp is. The dumbest Brian. If I'm the best Brian, he is the dumbest Brian.
The absolute worst Brian we have ever had.
We're gonna open up the bowling alleys because I'm a fun dude. Fucking idiot.
And of course, with as always, the bestest lady. It's Lady Merowyn Lindsay, whatever you want to call her. She's here today as well.
Hi guys. And I mean I'm great. Really I'm great. I swear I'm awake right now. It's been a month.
At
It
least,
has been a month, and it was a week, but it felt like a month.
it feels like April has just kind of happened. Like, March was the longest. And then April, like, it's already 420. How? I don't understand.
It's
Yet,
just all one big month.
I mean honestly, like, yeah, it's already the 20th, but it feels like it's taken 5 months to get here.
Oh, this month has moved by so fast. Maybe it's because, like, I'm still working, but doing more work because there's less people. So maybe I'm feeling the time dilation in everyone else's place. Either way, we want to talk about video games. I think that's what we're here to do, right? Something like that?
It's in the name of the show, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And I mean, we kind of got to do what we advertise, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be on camera today, so it's a waifu generator stream again.
Hooray!
Yay, waifus!
And of course, the game about the best waifus. I finished Final Fantasy VII over the weekend, and I think everyone in the world has to play the game if they played Final Fantasy VII. That is the if statement of that clause. Because it goes weird places with that Final Fantasy VII that I didn't really expect. I'm going to say, unlike literally everyone else, I was kind of let down by the ending, but there was something in the ending that I thought was about to happen and then didn't happen, and what actually happened really disappointed me because I was like, oh my god, they didn't. And yeah, actually they didn't. Motherfuckers. And I can't give anything else away without like dropping the hugest fucking spoiler in the world.
Wait, a bigger spoiler than Vader is Luke's father and that the kid really saw dead people?
Uh it's up there. Like, not the thing that I'm thinking of, but like the actual final chapter is basically a whole promise to the player that this isn't Final Fantasy VII anymore.
Yep.
Ew.
But this is what I've been sitting on for weeks at this point with you, Travis. This is
Yeah.
what I have not I've been trying to bide my tongue and divulge with you
Do we want
because
to
it is genuinely exciting to me.
do we want to talk about it after the show?
Maybe we'll see if we have time. I still have it's usually when we wrap the show, it's my din time.
That's
So we'll see.
entirely fair.
We'll see how din works out when it comes to that. But yes, no, like this ending, without getting into any details, like I am all for it. I'm all about it.
Yeah, there's some strange ass Wizard of Oz bullshit going on at the end, and yeah, I don't think saying that is a spoiler, but man, some weird shit.
Oh. Don't tell me
You
they
look-
did the ultimate cop out because the Wizard of Oz bullshit. Like, if I'm thinking what I'm thinking, we're gonna talk later.
It's not what you're thinking. I absolutely promise you. It's some bullshit, but it ain't that level of bullshit. I already know what you're talking about. Anyway, you guys play any games over the last week, or should we oh yeah, Lindsay, you've been playing that Red Dead Redemption, haven't you?
Yeah. My new hard drive arrived yesterday. I was super giddy, and then I started downloading it. And with the way internet's been throttled lately, 118 gigs took a while. Especially given that I lost 3/4 of the day yesterday trying to figure out why this hard drive would suddenly just vanish and not actually appear on my system anymore. This is my first external that is USB powered rather than AC powered. And so I didn't realize that Windows 10 will shut down USB devices if it doesn't think it's being used. So I kept getting a, nope, corrupted file. What? Where the hell's the hard drive? And so, yeah, you can turn that off, by the way. You can make it so they're just always on. And it finally finished after much swearing and cursing and spazzing and anger. It finally finished at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Because it would also suddenly, due to the way the throttling has been happening, it would suddenly just stop downloading. So I'd have to like cancel the download and resume it for it to pick up and go, oh yeah, I was doing a thing. But I got a couple of hours of play in on it today. Just the online. I haven't touched the story yet, but it's really pretty. It's really well done. And I foresee myself swearing at this game a lot. Because I'm used to GTA 5 where it's, okay, I need you to get to the other side of the map. Please do so as fast as humanly possible. If you do that, you'll kill your horse.
Ooh.
It has a stamina bar, and after it hits the end of that bar, it stops. It does not run anymore. You are stuck at a crawl until it decides, okay, I feel refreshed again. So it's going to take a lot of adjusting. a lot of adjusting. Also, fuck wolves, fuck cougars, fuck bears. They tend to enjoy just randomly popping out and eating your face.
Please don't murder your horses. They look like such good horses.
They are, and honestly, like, the animation on them is fantastic. I've seen so many games that have tried to do horses and fail miserably.
Hmm.
And they got the realism on these down so far to the point that occasionally they will stop dead and just lift their tails and poop. Also, it's very easy to tell if you have a boy horse versus a girl horse. They went that far.
I have
It's
heard.
Rockstar. Of course
yeah.
they did.
I've heard them balls is on point.
Yep. Yep. I'm like, hey, look, I got my first horse. You're a dude. Now what am I going to name you?
Well, it's interesting that you and I talked about basically related to several of our topics today. We'll get into one now. The source originally came from Famitsu, so we're just going to translate this here into English. um, but Final Fantasy VII has had a huge release, at least over in the Japans. They release their sales numbers over there, whereas internationally you don't really have to. But 703,000 copies its first week, making it the #1 game selling in Japan right now. Not really a huge surprise given how beloved Final Fantasy VII itself is, but the fact that it shipped additional PS4 Pro units totaling 79,000 units additional sold, based just on Final Fantasy VII, is pretty big into the last half year almost of its life cycle.
No, these are stupendous numbers. They're also unsurprising numbers, I would say. I mean, I will say this: the copies sold for the game itself, not surprising. The fact that it sold as many PS4 Pros as it did, that's surprising because you don't necessarily need a Pro to take advantage of the up the remakes graphics, I would say. But hey,
Yeah.
if people want the Pro, like, by all means go out for it. I'm sure it looks better on the Pro. I mean, that's the whole reason why they released it in the first place. So, but no, these are promising numbers, and you got to think that if sales are topping 700,000 in Japan, I can only imagine what the digital sales of this game look like in North America and Europe, especially the UK and America. Because like this is the one game that, like, every once in a while there's a game that I will see in my, like, non-video game centric circles of Twitter that I am in that just kind of proliferates everything. The last one to do it was Animal Crossing, obviously, because like that was like the first pandemic game to come out. But like this has quickly usurped that role for a lot of people. There are people that I did not even know were into Final Fantasy or into video games that have been talking about this game. So it makes total sense that these numbers would easily be in the millions, especially when you see the numbers that you're seeing coming out of Japan so far. So, by all means, like, stupendous job. The game is worth that praise, and the game is worth that adoptability. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for every one person I've heard that has had, complaints of the game, and I think there are legitimate complaints to be had, I do think, as much as I absolutely do love the battle system, I do think there is some problems with how intuitive it can be to different players. Like, I didn't figure out that counter fucking existed until, like, the last boss of the second to last chapter, so.
Yeah, see, that shouldn't be happening. That stuff should be like they do not communicate how the battle system works very effectively, and this is just based off of the tutorial where, like, that's the training mode. That's where they set up all that stuff for the most part, you know. And like I'll be frank, like I had some trouble like figuring out exactly how to work everything my first go around with it, And I can only imagine, like, for a system that does have some depth to it, it is not communicated very well at all.
Yeah, like you think you understand the game, you think you have the feel for the mechanics, and then like you have a breakthrough of like, shit, I have been fucking this thing up the whole time. How many bosses would I have one shot if I had known that I wasn't comboing correctly with Tifa, or that I wasn't hot swapping correctly between sprite animations?
Yep.
But for every one of those complaints, I've seen 20 people going like, "This game was a fucking masterpiece." I came 8 times at the cliffhanger in this game.
I think it can be both, honestly. That's how I feel about it. Like, the battle system, like, it's good. I like it, but it's the thing I like the least about it so far.
There's a lot of things I fucking adore in the battle system. I don't want them to change it, but man, if you guys had somehow like given to the players a little bit more, hey, you should be doing this maybe a bit more often. I don't know how you do that in a non-intrusive way, but that's why I'm not making video games. And maybe that's why a lot of action games don't have this particular level of depth to its combat engine, because it is hard to tell to people, hey, this is exactly what you should be doing, and if you do it the right way, it feels like the Final Fantasy VII you already know.
I mean, it's not too hard though, especially here's the thing: the way that they break down the system for you is in like this slideshow thing where you're going through stuff in the
Mm.
first mission, and that is by far probably the worst way to do that with this system. I think if you are just having prompts in the middle of actions and like you're faced with different scenarios where you're having to use that sort of stuff, like let the game teach you as opposed to me reading off a slide before I get into a fight. I think having a more tactile way of doing that, especially for fights that don't really have any weight and fights that are like so easy to win whenever you're trying to learn that stuff, like that's fine. Like if they had like not told me anything and just threw me into that first boss fight
Mm.
without, and that was the time where they were going to teach me about the battle system, yeah, I would have been fucking upset about that. But like they took the right approach, they just didn't have the right way to communicate it, I feel. So, and that's me saying that as someone who still likes the battle system.
So basically, great idea, poor execution.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal battle system once you are used to it, but once you start figuring out what you've been doing wrong the whole time, and you think you're playing the game well, you're doing a good job, just, maybe I'm not materia junctioning correctly for this particular boss fight, and then you realize, actually, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, it does matter, but it doesn't fucking matter. Anyway, that is a long ass fucking tangent to say this is a great game that people should go out and fucking play. It's real fun. It's just good, and I can't wait to the second. And it's clear with these numbers, this is going to be a second and a third, maybe a fourth and fifth. I don't fucking know. There could be a lot of these.
We'll see.
Anywho, on to more Lindsay's side of the equation. So you may remember as Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, there was a lot of talk about Rockstar and its crunch culture and the depths of problems that Rockstar had with their crunch culture. However, Jason Schrier, good boy, and constantly reporting on the game industry and its more nuanced issues, had a talk with a whole lot of Rockstar employees, often the same ones that spoke with him previously about the issues. As of right now, while they're working on scheduled games, DLC, etc., they are not seeing the same issues with culture that they were seeing previously. As well, a lot of promises of big change and a whole lot actually done to get rid of the grueling 100-hour work weeks that were common near the end of Red Dead Redemption 2's span. Just it's good to see this sort of shit coming down the pipeline for once. It could be just because we're not at crunch time yet, but sorry, I keep talking.
No, you're fine.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, like, yeah, this makes me incredibly happy to see. I mean, Rockstar has always had the potential to be an incredible company.
Hmm.
It really pained me to see them fall into that same, what seems to be the status quo in the game industry of a heavy crunch culture. And yeah, I understand deadlines, but I think, if anything, and I know we've talked about the pandemic to death and its impact on the gaming industry, but I think this is showing them that you can still put out a good quality product if you take your time. People will wait if you have to delay.
Yeah, and like that, this is the kind of shift that you want to see from the kind of coverage that we've seen from Jason and other people like Kotaku for issues like that. Like it's very telling that finally one of these large scale AAA companies is taking some of these sentiments to heart and is actually trying to do something about it. Um, Granted, not everything's fixed, obviously. Like you spoke about Merowyn about the crunch culture, like that's stuff that it's not flip a switch and it's done. It's one of those things that I think you have to basically start changing the inherent culture of a setting, and it's something that according to these emails that uh, Kotaku obtained from Rockstar, like it seems like there's some genuine movement in that way right now. A lot of the people that Jason spoke to, that he previously spoke to here in this article, they're saying that like everything seems healthier. Like the culture is changing. Like there have been the accusations. I think there have been a sexual harassment allegation against one of the higher ups in the company, and like the frat atmosphere that kind of it. Unfortunately, this is not just a Rockstar problem with that. That's a lot of like major game companies. I feel from reporting that I've read, kind of takes on the sort of mindset in a lot of ways. But it seems like they're starting to kind of understand their spot and the influence that they have and what they should be doing as one of the pillars of this industry. I mean, for whether we like Rockstar or not, like they are a major player in this industry, one of the major players in this industry, and if they start setting an example, hopefully other people can follow.
Most definitely. Like, I would love to see the rest of the industry take some cues from Rockstar.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and it also should be noted, like there's been a lot of turnover at the top of Rockstar. Also, like basically, I believe both of the Housers are gone
Mhm.
from the company at this point, which is makes. I mean, basically, they've been operating Hauserless for almost at least close to a year at this point. I want to say less than a year, but I think I want to say close to a year. So it's one of those situations where, like, I don't know the nature of why they left, but there's definitely changes going on that now have some of the people out of the way to where they can be implemented, I would say.
Yeah, one of the major talking points in the article is the fact that a lot of the upper management that uh, did really play into this whole culture of crunch, overwork, and kind of a boys' club attitude uh, are the ones that are emotionally gone. Again, it's hard for us to know really where or how these came about, whether it was a matter of the managers kind of saw the writing on the wall, didn't like the culture and left, or whether they were subsequently let go, it's hard to really say, but a turnover of not just saying that you're doing better things, but setting up better things with your management is really a cool circle to have overall. It really does tell that the company, at the very least, wants to try something bigger and better. So, you know, kudos to Rockstar. I mean, they've always been a beloved developer. They've never really had you know, a defining moment of crash and burn like we've seen with companies like Blizzard and others. um, they've at the least always produced, if they've not always been one of the better to work for in the industry. And even when their crunch culture was at the worst, according to the people, it was still a fairly good company to work for. So hopefully, all of these in combination lead to better times at the company. And I do firmly believe the happier employees build happier content.
Most
So,
definitely.
yeah.
And I just did a bit of research. It looks like that Dan Hauser went on an extended break in spring of 2019. His final day with the company was March 11th of this year. Sam Hauser's role remains unchanged.
Okay, so Sam's still there. Okay. That's right. It was the Benz. That was the other one that left like years ago. Or well, at least, I think maybe like a year or two before Dan Hauser did. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. I misspoke there. Thank you for correcting me on that.
I'm a research nerd. I need to figure out how the world works and it's less scary.
Nah, no worries. I real quick shout out though for like the stuff that's happened at Rockstar Lincoln specifically, which is where Rockstar does all of their QA testing.
Mm.
They converted all their contractors to full-time staff and increased their salaries, and now actually pay overtime whenever people work the optional overtime.
Hell yeah.
So it just goes to show, like, concerted efforts can make workplaces better. Especially when someone's holding your feet to the fire by talking about how shitty things are running.
Now, before we go into the obvious follow up to this, a quick sidetrack here, and of course, thanks Giant Pie, hey, in there in the chat. One thing that is kind of in the article that isn't really a huge portion of it, but you know, places like Games Radar definitely have picked up and put a little bit more look into it. Of course, they're working on a GTA 6. Who wouldn't believe that they're working on GTA 6? They're always going to be working on a new Grand Theft Auto. But GTA 6 is reportedly going to launch as a smaller scale game that will evolve over time with more online activity, similar to what's in GTA 5, more baked into the released game itself. Which,
Honestly,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, honestly, that's not surprising at all. Because let's face it, the major moneymaker for Rockstar right now is GTA Online. To a lesser extent, Red Dead Online, but
Mhm.
GTA Online is still number one with a fucking bullet for them. So it will make total sense that they would try and create an experience that integrates all of those monetization processes into the game itself and not have separate modes that you have to have some form of added investment to really adapt them into your GTA experience. Like it's the logical step forward. Like there's obviously there are complaints about something like that, and it calls into question what GTA 6 will look like as compared to the other GTA games, obviously. And I have my own qualms about this sort of stuff happening. But at the same time, from a business standpoint, from Rockstar standpoint, I totally understand the move.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest, of all the monetization schemes out there, shark cards aren't the dirtiest. At least you're still able to play the game regardless of whether you have it or not. You just are able to make more in-game money faster so you can get them cute ass cosmetics that you want. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have trouble with this, and that was my biggest problem of GTA 5 online, is that it had nothing to do with the main game itself, and it just distracted me from it, really. It just felt like some additional fluff. So building the online experience in may make me actually give half a shit about it.
Now, I will fully admit, I still have not played GTA 5 single player campaign. Pretty much all of my time with the game has been online because I like being able to have that escape and not be railroaded in with this is the story of this character. I can make myself whoever I want. Now, by way of monetization, I can actually see Red Dead generating slightly more by way of premium purchases for the simple fact that in order to start any profession in Red Dead Online, you need 15 gold bars, which you will earn at a rate of 0.08 per major event that you take part in.
Mm.
So Playwatch is correcting me. It starts at a base of like 0.08 up to 0.4. You need 15 of these. And it's, of course, 100 nuggets, which is your point whatevers, to 1 bar. So you want to be a trapper? Yeah, grind a lot. You want to be a moonshiner? Grind even more because you have to be a trader first. So, like, I could see Red Dead generating a lot of money because it is a hell of a grind. I think Playwatch played this thing like 12 to 14 hours a day for almost a week straight before he had enough to even start one profession.
Jesus.
Yeah, but the online games have always been a bit grindy in the first place. I don't know if building grind into an online game is necessarily horrible. I don't know. Say what you will. Anyway, hey
See,
Q, hey Kelvin.
that's what makes me question fully integrating GTA Online into the GTA main game experience, because GTA in and of itself is not a grind game.
Correct.
I mean, it is a bunch of busy mission bullshit for the most part. They can be very bloated at times. You know, I'd say probably GTA 5 is probably the least bloated of them all at this point. But at the end of the day, it's not a game where you need to commit the kind of time that Merowyn is talking about to like basically like make something of yourself, or be able to like work through a story point in that game. But integrating it's going to be hard to integrate some of the monetization systems without implementing some of that grind into the main game itself. And that could turn off some people that come to GTA for the main game. I know the GTA Online community is vast and continually growing and is very, very strong and fervent about what that game presents. And I am all for it. Like, if that's your experience you want with that, go for it. Totally. I understand. But it begs the question, like, whether like dissolving that divide really is going to make for a better experience and something that's going to be anywhere near as profitable for Rockstar as GTA 5 and GTA Online has been.
Hmm.
I mean, the only big qualms I have about GTA Online is the fact that, like, if you decide to open up one of the businesses, so like you have a Coke business or you have a weed business or anything like that, in order to do any of your missions for it, you have to be in a public lobby
Mm.
and you will get griefed to hell. So, unless I'm playing with somebody else, like, my businesses sit untouched. I have no income coming in unless I go sit at the casino and gamble.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so, like, I would love to see something like that be changed so that way if you're in a public lobby, you can actually do the thing.
Fair. But where we really have been going with this whole conversation on Rockstar in the first place was that this was actually the last post, the last real editorial by Jason Schrier for Kotaku. If you don't know, um, Jason Schreier has been kind of a big name at Kotaku. He tends to be the one that especially files the major reports on industry issues, which is kind of a bread and butter topic here at Mr. Video Games, to be honest with you. And while he doesn't specify directly in Kotaku why he left and where he's going, we'll get to that. But he does talk a bit about coming up through the industry, his time at Kotaku, and that he's hopefully leaving behind a bit of a legacy here, and that maybe things will get better without him. Of course, as we have talked about before, the owners of the Gizmodo Onion hybrid network here have not exactly been great to the employees, and I think we've all just been wondering how long is Jason Schreier staying at the company, as he has been very uh, obviously temperamental about his employer if you follow him on Twitter. So, yeah, I think the writing's been on the wall a while for this one. But I think Kotaku was better for having it.
Oh, by far. This one is very personal for me because Jason is someone that I've read for a long time. Whenever he was writing for Wired, he was like a little bit on my radar, but
Hmm.
Kotaku is really where like I fell in love with his style of reporting and getting into this industry. He was one of the people that I looked up to in terms of like being that investigative journalist, like telling the stories that need to be told, holding people accountable, truth to power, that sort of thing, within the games industry. And that's him and Cecilia D'Anastasio, another former Kotaku reporter, were the two really that I look to in that area of the journalistic field for like I guess like mentors without actually being mentored by them. Like they were just people that I looked up to for that sort of thing. And the fact that both of them are gone from Kotaku now is very telling
Hmm.
because like Kotaku, at least for right now, there are still plenty of great voices at Kotaku. Heather Alexandria, Stephen Totillo, like awesome people doing awesome work there. Ian Walker, another good one, covering the fighting game scene and along with other video games. So like, there's still great people and great voices there, but Jason really felt like the heart of that in a lot of ways, and the fact that he is gone now is I mean it's devastating to I think Kotaku. um Not that it will impact their place as a leader of um like covering the games industry, but they're losing a very very valuable voice there, and it can all be tied into the issues with their new owners, Great Hill Partners. Basically, I know we're going to talk about the piece that where he was interviewed for GamesIndustry.biz here in a second, but in that piece he talks about how the stuff that happened with Deadspin was the final straw for him, and that was the final straw for a lot of people. Obviously, I mean, the entire editorial team at Deadspin left because of Great Hill. We've had outlets shut down like Splinter because of Great Hill. You've had people like exit from pretty much every Geo Media upright because of the mismanagement and the disappointment in direction that Great Hill wants to take these companies without understanding like what these companies have stood for, what these outlets have really pushed for with their coverage, how unabashed they've been with their coverage, and how that sort of attitude is needed in the journalistic field. Like you have to be able to speak truth to the people that are up high. If not, you're just putting out listicles. And like I like a good listicle. I write a good listicle, but for fuck's sake, that's not what journalism is. And so yeah, this is gonna be devastating for Kotaku in many ways. They're gonna soldier on. This will be good, but it's a I'm glad that he's moving on to something bigger and better, and I'm glad that he is still staying within covering the industry in a way. But yeah, this is a bummer in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help but feel a bit like this isn't the last nail in the coffin for Kotaku, but it feels like a beginning of an end to me, unless they can really find a way to turn things around and really make some of their. They do still have great writers of Kotaku, but I've seen this happen with sites like Crack before, where one valuable writer leaves, and you get a wave that follows it. And I kind of feel like Kotaku might be on that edge right now.
It is very important to point out, though, that this is not necessarily a Kotaku problem. This is a Geo Media problem.
True.
This goes much deeper than just Kotaku, and I will tell you right now, Gita Jackson would likely still be there. Jason would probably still be there. Cecilia might still be there, if not for the issues that have been just bubbling and bubbling since Great Hill took over ownership of Geo, and they have screwed the pooch at every turn with trying to run this company. I love watching every time they try to relaunch Deadspin and just seeing how much that site gets shit on now. And Deadspin was one of my favorite sports sites to go to because they didn't just stick to sports, and that's exactly what Geo Media wanted them to do, or what Great Hill wanted them to do. And then that's why that site ultimately died, because you have to understand there's an intersection to all of these things. You can't just cover one thing and speak about one thing. All right. There are plenty of Twinfinites out there. All right. There are plenty of game revolutions out there. This is the kind of stuff that needs to be done. This is the kind of reporting that needs to be done to keep pushing this journalistic form forward. All right, you can't just, especially with games, where like for the longest time it was just like here's a preview and then here's a review and then there's a sponsored content and then all this other stuff. You know, like that the games industry has evolved in terms of games media coverage, and like these people, Jim Spanfeller, the herb, if you will, like this attitude that he has towards the verticals, not just Kotaku, but all the verticals underneath Geo Media, is really, really frustrating, because you have to understand the intersection there if you want to do quality, credible journalism and speak about these evolving spheres in a way that actually is engaging. You can't just talk about, you can talk about a funny blooper from a sports game. You can talk about something dumb here and there, but you have to have something concrete to say. And if you are trying to limit the voices of those people trying to say it, you're not letting anyone say anything.
Yeah, the whole thing feels kind of pointless overall if you're trying to limit what your people can say in their articles. We're finding a lot more and more media is really driving on a personality based, and might as well move into the next article here that I pulled up a while ago. Anyway, Rebecca Valentine from GameIndustry.biz had a chance to talk to Jason about his move now to Bloomberg News. I know the name Bloomberg isn't exactly loved out there anymore, but you know, Bloomberg News does continue to be a pretty decent media outlet. Where, from what we can tell, he'll be paid decently on it. And he had a conversation as well with her. One of the major points that he gets to is the question of what do you really do now to make money being a journalist and really getting your journalist paid.
I'll recuse myself for just a minute and let you finish talking. I'm sorry. I couldn't help but laugh as soon as that question came up. Haha.
Mhm. Getting journalists paid is really a big thing. And if you want good journalism, you've got to be, people have to be willing to pay for it. And one of the things we're seeing a lot more lately is the rise of personality based journalism, which isn't necessarily the worst thing ever, but you know, getting those Patreon bucks in for your journalism, for an individual voice, how are you going to ever get a full cast of people who tell you the news in unison rather than just one person talking into a microphone over the same thing? Especially one person is a very easy way to lead people down a road to bullshit. Versus a team which might actually have, you know, validation and whatnot. This is what Brian. We're holding the cage door. Let.
I'm not going to just come out fist ablaze or anything like that, because like I'll be frank, I've written for places before that you know, underpaid. That's the nature of the
No.
beast. That's the nature of the beast in some ways. You know, I get it. It's frustrating, but that's the kind of, it speaks to what Jason is talking about, you know? Because basically the internet has kind of proliferated this attitude that if it's on the internet, it should be, especially when it comes to journalism. And I will say this right up front: plenty of media outlets are guilty of propagating that sentiment. Um, I think it's why, you know, so many sites were late to put up paywalls for their stuff, and not realizing that advertising was not going to be the sole way that you are going to be able to support these businesses. It's why so many, you know, just general like newspapers have been sold to these companies and these people that have, in some ways, have done the same thing that Great Hill has done with Geo, in that they've really tried to put stories that will generate clicks and reader and views over like the real like hard nosed stuff. And Coop, to your point about journalism and groundwork, the groundwork is journalism too.
Hmm.
It's not just about being able to write this up. It's about following, it's about finding the stories, following the stories, getting that stuff together and putting it out there in a way that can inform people. Like it, and I understand why you make that separation in some ways, because there are plenty of people who like work in journalism that can be somewhat separate from that, I would say. Um, Fox News. And I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to. We've spoken about this before with other like game studios and like online games where you have to. I think the best example was when we talked about Epic, where you know their attitude with Fortnite QA and Fortnite development is that they feel like they are forced by the fan base to work at such a blistering pace that there's really no stopping. That it's almost like go 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 to get things corrected or get new things out for the game or blah blah blah. Wherein they are letting the fans dictate their pace of work, while they should be trying to dictate what the fans expect. Media and trying to like convince people to pay for journalism and their news is something that plenty of news outlets have to recondition readers to do. And I'm guilty of it too. Like there are plenty of times where I was just like, I'll find a way to get around a paywall to read something, and I feel bad about that. But sometimes it's either like whether it's my job or just something that I just really need just like one thing from a place. Like I feel bad about doing that, but I do it, and so we're all complicit in this, and it's an attitude that needs to change because you know if people continue to work in this industry without receiving proper compensation for it, the industry's going to die. It's either going to die or it's going to turn into something that does not represent what this industry should be doing, games or otherwise. This goes for like all journalism, and that really bothers me because like I try, and this is just me personally, I try and commit myself to cover stories that are lesser known and to try and like cover topics that speak to communities that aren't necessarily as served in the mainstream media and stuff like that. And if I'm lucky that I'm in a spot where I can do that while, you know, still having some gripes about stuff. And the fact that, but that's the thing though, is like you don't get into journalism to make money.
No.
In a lot of ways. You get into it because you have a passion for it. It's like so many other careers here. That does not mean that you should not be fairly compensated. And, you know, I'm glad that a lot of people are moving to Patreon based systems. You know, a really great one that I have had experience working with recently, Uppercut. They are awesome. We also just saw, speaking to this, we just saw the stuff that happened with EGM over the past week, where they basically they've been doing a lot of feature work over there, doing a lot of long form journalism stuff since they relaunched last year, but now they are changing up their format completely. They had a lot of people that, to my knowledge, had stuff scheduled to go up on that site, and they are not going to have that stuff published. Uppercut stepped up. They put up a fundraiser, and they raised over $10,000 for those people to rehome that stuff that would have gone to EGM on Uppercut to make sure people were still compensated at some point. Jason Schrier himself actually donated to that fundraiser because he gets it. A lot of other people did because they get it, and a lot of the people that did were fans that just gave what they could. You know, like this is the sort of model that's going to probably be the best route for this stuff to go going forward. And it's frustrating that it does come to that, but in a way, it's doing the exact same thing that like the LA Times or the New York Times or the Washington Post is doing by putting up their paywalls. You have to pay if you want to continue getting the quality of stuff that you're getting. And you know, if Patreon's going to be the thing, then let Patreon be the thing. But I really hope that other avenues emerge to where you're not necessarily relying on user generated funds to do that, and you're able to be more secure in that way. That you're not always like pushing for like, you know, getting new people in to support your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen even respected journalism sites having to resort to, at this point, certain amounts of rage baiting in order to get the eyes back to their media now that people have grown more used to what's going on out there. And they're not, you know, going to the pages daily for their update on where the virus is. We know where the virus is. It's out there. It exists. But earlier this week, it was what Business Insider had that article. It's time to admit the Animal Crossing is a dumb, boring game for children.
Yeah, I mean that was a shitty headline, by the way. Before even getting into the story itself, like if you want to write something dismissive of Animal Crossing and it doesn't fit your thing, by all means throw your opinion out there. It's going to be out there for people to shit on because a lot of people probably will shit on that opinion. But if you're going to do that, at least come up with an opinion that's not like not necessarily an opinion, but don't come up with a headline like that. Like that is just one of the most just dumb, disgusting things I've seen. Like that is clear clickbait type shit that really frustrates me. Like I'm not a fan of like super indulgent headlines personally. I think the most indulgent one I've written was like my most recent piece over on Outsports about, I think I made a pun off of Boys of Summer, talking about sports in the summertime or something. And that's like the most I'll go into it. But to come out and just basically in your headline before you even have a chance to try and like convince anybody of your point, that you write something that is going to be already infuriating and inflaming, or inflammatory is the better word there. Um, Before you even get into the body of what you're trying to say, like that's just bad. That's just bad. No, that's terrible.
But this is kind of what we've come to with journalism at this point. We have, I hear time and time again people shitting on journalism. Oh, the media are awful. They're not awful. It's just a matter of every once in a while they've basically got to put out a piece of clickbait to get the ads in for the month. And I don't hold it against Business Insider or the writer for that article, but I'm not going to be the one also who gives them the time to that's why I'm not including the link or anything right now as I'm talking, is they don't deserve the click for that, because yeah. But Washington Post, New York, there's so many great journalists still out there and working. Hell, even on CNN, even on Fox News, there are still good journalists working out there. So it is not a matter of that they don't exist, or that the corporatists are only feeding into the ones that do good work. There's a lot of great work out there, but you're going to see the ones that piss off people more, because rage clicks are what gets those headlines. And I don't think that's something that Jason Schrier ever really wants to be a part of. To get back to the source of the conversation, so he would rather just go over to the Bloomberg and continue to find his further niche there, whether it be continue to talk on the bad practices of the game industry, or however he fits into their media site.
Yeah, I mean, and more power to him in that aspect. Like anytime you go to an outlet where you can carve your own place out, like that's the godsend.
Mhm.
Like honestly, and I honestly I am of the belief that you have to recondition your audience,
Mhm.
and media has not been very good about that. I know I've probably repeated that phrase like so many times here, but it's just like it's the main thing when it comes to this stuff. Like you have to condition people to understand that this is a job, it's the same way that you would pay for a burger. You have to pay for this stuff, or else it's gonna go away.
Yeah, this hour or two that we put out a week is a hobby. I think if we got paid, we would actually bother to put time, energy, and whatnot into it. But ultimately, what we do here is a hobby. We're
Oh, I
not
got plenty of
journalists.
energy.
I've got enough energy for 2 hours a week. Other than that,
I'm curious, Merwin. What are your thoughts?
I mean, you guys pretty much covered everything. Like the clickbaity titles, I hate them. Sadly, they're a necessity. But like you guys made the point with the Animal Crossing one, like that was unnecessary. Like it didn't need to be that bad. Uh, but yeah, I mean, Jason Schreier makes a really good point. Like, if you want the quality, you've got to pay for the quality. Like, it's like everything else in life, you get what you pay for.
but Hey, let's move on to our next article because I think we've beat a bit into the dead bush. But hey, speaking of where Jason Schrier is coming from, let's actually look at an article from Bloomberg's technology division here. Takashi and Yuri Furukawa. I'm not going to pretend like I know how to pronounce Takashi's last name. I'm very sorry, sir. That I'm familiar with Furukawa. Oh, hey. When you're browsing incognito, you can't read the whole thing. Hilarious. We kind of got into the whole point that I read this earlier under an account I can log into, but now that I'm looking incognito, fuck it, I don't actually need the whole fucking article. Anyway, Bloomberg's a fine inside anyway. Uh, what it really boils down to is while there's going to be a reduction in the amount of PlayStation 5s that will be released at the end of this year, they don't believe that it's really going to hit the industry terribly badly because the people who are early adopters tend to also be the ones who have the money for this sort of indulgence. It's going to be the 2021 sales of a lot of objects, not just the PlayStation 5, not just the Xbox, the name of the one that comes after this, and oh my god, I hate Xbox's naming convention because I have gone so far down this rabbit hole I've forgotten everything about their fucking names. Anyway, the PlayStation 5 is likely to not have a great year next year because of what is coming up this year with a huge percentage, what is it, 20-30% of the world currently unemployed?
Roughly.
Yeah.
Thereabouts.
Not to say the least of the people only working part-time right now, gig working during the pandemic, they're not going to be able to afford a PlayStation 5 in the following year. And let's face it, it's, the more common people who keep a console going than the early adopters. The early adopters are going to come in, drop the money on year one, but it's going to be the people who follow in on year two, year three, year four. That's where the real money on a console comes from. You can only have so many whales on a console in order to keep it afloat. This isn't, a fucking mobile game. This is a whole ass console, which could cause major issues for Sony and Microsoft down the line. Nintendo has already made their front bucks, so to speak, but there's worry here.
No, and there's reason to worry. Obviously, I know in the U.S. alone, 22 million people unemployed, or at least 22 people filing for unemployment. That doesn't mean everybody that's unemployed has been counted. Like that, there's going to be a significant drop in the buyer base for this system at launch this year, and it makes total sense that they would try and limit the production of the console for at least the launch, because, like you said, they're not going to be able to hit any kind of sales projections that they had, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, at this point. Especially if they continue looking at the price tag that they are reportedly looking at between $500 and $550 for the PS5 at launch. I think that the move makes sense. The price tag still is, me. The price tag for me is still too high. I know there's an analyst quoted here saying that he still believes that both the Xbox Series X and the PS5 will still come in be retailing at $450, even if both companies stand to lose money off of that, because, like, let's face it, they're probably going to be pushing software very hard at launch as well, and especially if games are going to be bridging PS4 and PS5 in a real substantial way, like they're talking about. You don't necessarily need to be able to break even off of hardware sales alone in this instance. There's a lot of talk in this article, and it makes total sense. Damien Thong, by the way, was the analyst that said that about the 450 price tag.
Gotcha.
But there's another part in this piece that's really telling is that the Sony is probably going to rely more on trying to maybe price cut the PS4 and PS4 Pro and get people onto those systems and get them going with PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now subscriptions to kind of supplement that loss potentially by putting out fewer systems at launch, which is a good strategy. I still think PlayStation Now has some issues. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but if you're on the PlayStation ecosystem, it's a good way to have access to a vast library of stuff that you can play as soon as you drop that $10. And PlayStation Plus, that's probably the best thing that they can really try and hang their hat on with trying to get some extra money going in. PlayStation Plus is a great subscription service. So there are strategies here to and help this, but yeah, they're going to take a hit in one way or another, whether it be a reduced price tag or just like fewer units sold. I really think that if it gets up above 500, you're going to see the number of units sold drop even further, no matter how many they put out at launch, though.
Yeah, we're not going to see the number of PlayStation 5s we'd want, and I can promise you, once those pre-orders go up, they're going to be gone in a matter of fucking minutes. So
I think we might also see companies, instead of reporting like number of units sold, it'll be percentage of production run sold.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of sellouts early on, followed by trickles probably in the following year.
I mean,
well, you think like if they only produce 1 million consoles for their first run, but they sell 95% of that, that sounds a lot better than per unit.
I mean, it does. It definitely does, and that's a good way to kind of skew optics in that way. But I don't think anybody's going to blame the PS5 if they have like substandard or subpar sales numbers right out the gate. No one's going to blame Sony for that. I don't think. I think a lot of people are still going to be pointing to this situation that we're in right now as that. So either way, like they have an out if their numbers don't look as good as people might want them to look in that way. It's just more so a question of, and in some ways, the stuff with Microsoft will dictate this more so than the pandemic. Like the pandemic will tell them how many they should produce and how many that they should try and get into stores right off the bat. And 1 million doesn't sound like too far off of a number that they would probably look at. They might, I imagine it'll be somewhere between 1 and 5 million probably, but at the same time, this game of chicken between Sony and Microsoft, it comes up every time we talk about the next gen because no one wants to be the first one to play their hand. And somebody eventually has to.
Are we in the middle of a recession? Ask Bloomberg. I'm sorry, but I can't.
Are we
in the middle of a recession? Do you fucking think? Maybe. Fuck off.
And that speaks to the point. Like, there's just no matter how many units of the PS5 that Sony ships in the holiday of 2020, those numbers are going to be disappointing. So really, the only real battle right now is trying to figure out how they can position themselves better against Microsoft. And we still don't know that. And we probably won't know that until sometime later in the summer, June, July. So it's still a lot of stuff still up in the air. But like this news, no surprise. No surprise at all.
Yeah, and while all of this is going on, it's hard to feel the impacts right now. And I say that to go into this, that basing anything off of sales that happen right now isn't really a good modifier because a lot of people really haven't started to feel much of a pinch. Yeah, I think I'm doubling off of somebody else. Giant, but anyway. This controller was the first hint that there is going to be an Xbox Series X or Xbox One X. Hello, that is going to be coming out. That is going to be explicitly branded for Cyberpunk 2077. That they started off with this Amazon UK. That is, or was it Amazon Canada? Amazon
It was
Canada.
Amazon Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, it's Amazon, not America, but also America speaking people. Sorry. This kind of interesting, kind of weird looking controller was listed on sale early for just the gamepad, but literally as of like a day after this kind of leak happened, basically Xbox has just come out with the full release here of this whole bundle, and I kind of like that 1X model that you got going here. It looks like absolute fucking junk, and that is my aesthetic. So yeah, that's out there now. That's really that's the story. Is the controller leaked early because shit always leaks early now. But there's this kind of cute looking Xbox Series, Xbox One X that is out there. God, I report on Xbox nearly every week, and I still haven't gotten the titles of their fucking consoles together. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
It's okay. No one has it. Everyone struggles with this stuff. It's the most convoluted thing. No, like honestly, in terms of just the system itself, like I'm into this look. If I wanted to buy an Xbox One X, I would probably buy this one. But what this really, the news that comes that comes out of this specifically is that, this transition in console generations is going to be different than any other that we've seen.
Mhm.
If Cyberpunk 2077 is getting a specific Xbox One X release and not an Xbox Series X release, I believe I got that right.
Yes, you did.
Sweet. All right, I get a cookie. Oh, I don't get a cookie later because I'm on elimination diet. Anyway, I get
You
carrots.
get to dream of cookies later.
Ah, God. Now you got me thinking about. Never mind. I'm not gonna think about Easter candy. So, but no, like the news that comes out of about this is that like these people, these companies, they are looking to bridge that gap in a way that still caters to the previous audience more so than any other. Obviously, we've talked a lot about backwards compatibility here. We've talked about a lot of games that are going to be releasing on both generations at the same time. I believe Cyberpunk is one of those games. So like, it really speaks to sort of the attitudes toward how they're approaching the next gen releases, and honestly it's probably the best way that they could approach it considering the economic situation that we have kind of wandered into with the coronavirus stuff. It's not something that they probably expected, but they inadvertently set themselves up for a good way to try and minimize any damage from whether it be high costs of the console at release or the inability of a lot of the user base to buy the new consoles at release. Like it's a smart thing that I don't know if they necessarily knew how smart it was going to be before all of this stuff hit. Honestly,
Yeah, actually, what is the current price of Xbox One X? Is it still $500?
I think it dropped down to. I'm not positive.
Yeah, $400.
That's not terrible. It's still not low enough for me to consider getting one.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah, kind of same. Like, there was a part of me that looked at it like, this is nice. I wonder how much this will be. Like, $400. Fuck. Okay.
I mean, though, I will say one thing for the whole leak of that gamepad. Holy hell, Canada got the drop on something. Usually tech related, we are the last ones to get anything.
I mean, to be fair, Amazon Canada and Walmart Canada have been pretty good about dropping shit early in the past 3 years or so. So good on y'all.
True.
All right, just a quickie to drop in here, and I'm pretty sure almost anyone here has heard, but hey, if you have one of them PlayStation 4s already, there's free fucking games. Go out and pick them up. They're free until May 5th. It's part of PlayStation trying to keep everyone in fucking side playing video games instead of going outside and catching the COVID. So go get it.
Here's the thing, though. If you, the 2 games though that they put up for this,
Mhm.
they kind of are, to personally, kind of a for me. That's not to say anything about the quality of the games, because Journey is a gem.
Mhm.
Journey is a game that everyone should play.
Mhm.
And Uncharted is a game. It's definitely a game, but it frustrates me the fact that Journey was up for free on PlayStation Plus like within the last year. Uncharted 4 is currently up for free on PlayStation Plus subscribers right now as well. So I don't know. I just feel like you could have offered something that didn't necessarily like play into the PlayStation Plus games that you have put up recently to kind of entice people a little bit more with this. I get it. Trust, and you're basically getting 4 games for free because the Nathan Drake collection has the first 3 Uncharted games. That's cool. Like, I'm all for Sony being charitable with this stuff to try and inspire, like, to keep people inside, whether that's, their corporate talk for why they're doing it. But, at the same time, though, a little underwhelmed by the offering, personally.
I'm excited because I've always wanted to get into Uncharted, and I've always been like, it seems a lot of, investment of time, but it coming out now, and, hey, having nothing but time right now. I've already got out and gotten my Nathan Drake collection, and I'm probably going to play through it because what the fuck else do I have to do with my free time now?
There you go. And you can download Uncharted 4 for free right now to play that afterwards.
I don't have
So-
PlayStation Plus, and I'm never going to get it.
Oh. Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Fuck that shit.
I don't know. I like the games that they put up there.
I don't.
I
Like
got all of
being
the
told.
BioShocks for
I don't-
free.
Like, I already get enough free games between Epic and Twitch handing me a free 5-6 games every fucking month that I will never play. I don't need another service to hand me free games that I also won't play because I wanted to play something different right now. So, yeah, no. They can shove it up their bag of dicks. I don't care.
All right.
I will fully admit when I first saw the games that they were offering, I'm like, wait, is this Stadia? I mean, Uncharted 1 through 3. When did Uncharted 3 come out? Like, how old is that game?
These are the remastered versions, though. I do have to at least give them that. Hey, let's look up what are Stadia's current free games for the month of March. I have forgotten.
Oh boy.
I got it.
Let's see. Guilt in SteamWorld Quest, Stacks on Stacks, Splitlings, and SteamWorld Dig 2. This
I've
is
heard
okay.
SteamWorld is good.
SteamWorld is great.
I've heard both. Yeah. But the other ones I've never heard of.
Guilt and Stacks on Stacks are both the only Stadia exclusives so far. So, yeah.
Wait. They're the exclusives,
Mm-hmm.
and they're already free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if Sony had turned around and done that with Death Stranding?
I want you to also remember that they're free during the month that they started giving out Stadia Pro for 2 months for free.
Oh boy. The end is nigh, folks.
Well, now I feel bad for going into a bummer final story. Thanks, Coop, for the last story or the link to what in our Discord. By the way, Discord, always at our twitch.tv site. There's a link to it in the doobly-doo down below that as well. We always publish to youtube.com/CBGP games for any of our previous shows you might have missed. A little bit of self-shilling anyway into the last full story. Noted voice talent Paul Haddad, most known for playing Resident Evil 2's Leon Kennedy, has sadly passed. I know the people behind Resident Evil, especially, had a lot to say on the loss, and clearly here is a person that had a lot more to his name than just this, but yeah, especially with how Resident Evil has been going through a sort of renaissance lately with all of its releases. I think this, Leon Kennedy especially is still very fresh in a lot of people's minds. So, yeah. Blessings to his family is about all I can really say, but it is a loss.
No, definitely. I mean, so much of his performance as Leon really shaped that character going forward, especially considering that you got to remember Leon, new character introduced into Resident Evil after the initial game, and people kind of latched on to Jill and Chris and Barry and Wesker, and like the cast of that first game is memorable, and Resident Evil 2 could have been so underwhelming in that way, trying to follow up on something that was as successful as the original Resident Evil. And part of the reason why it was as successful as it was because of the performance of Paul Haddad. And the dude went on to do a lot of other voice work in games and animation and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's just one of those things where I back to Leon has become such a major figure in the Resident Evil franchise and the Resident Evil that without Paul Haddad, like Leon might not have reached the heights that he has in a lot of ways, and it's a real bummer, especially considering that he had so many health issues near the end of his life as well, while he was still trying to work on. He was working in games up until like very recently. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's sad.
he wasn't an old man or anything. He was 56
No.
at his time of passing, which, there's a lot left for a 50-year-old man to continue to do. So, yeah. Also Canadian, so worth mentioning. Either way, that is our last story here on Mr. Video Games, but we always do end up finishing off with proclaiming our Mr. Video Games of the Week. If you've noticed a trend during this time, we're trying to go with more positive Mr. Video Games, just unless there is something really negative. So I'm not going to go into the whole spiel on on what Mr. Video Game is this week, but you know, we're going with a good one this time. Over the last weekend, Games Done Quick basically had to cancel its summer uh, show that they would normally do due to COVID-19, and instead, over the last weekend, did a online session with dozens of speedrunners, 50 different games to raise $400,000 to relief for Corona. There was a lot of great games done on this. I was watching a speed run of Sonic Mania before I even came to the show today. You can find all of that on their YouTube channel. You can continue to donate as well. But yeah, $400,000 is definitely huge at this time right now for I am sure a lot of people who have been affected by the virus. So just hell of a fucking job, not just by the Games Done Quick community, but also by the speedrunners themselves and all of the people who donated to come together for something, in this case, bigger than themselves in a lot of ways.
No, definitely, and that money is going to go to Direct Relief, which is a nonprofit that is basically out there trying to buy personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. So basically, trying to get those N95 masks, gowns, gloves, any kind of gear that's going to help them do their job better and help treat people that have come down with COVID-19 and help keep flattening the curve and try and ease some tensions on an already stressed healthcare system. Um, that that issue I think is global at this point, not just national. So yeah, good on them, and hopefully I know they postponed Summer Games Done Quick from June to August.
Mm.
So we'll see if it still happens in August. I don't know if it does. It might end up being something kind of virtual like this event was, but either way, another awesome awesome job done by the Games Done Quick people. They've done a lot of work to raise a lot of money for very very good causes, and I'm glad to see that they were able to find some way to contribute to this issue that is affecting the entire planet.
Yeah, and hey, at the very least, if you're at home with nothing to do during this time, go watch their YouTube channel. There's a lot of really great speed runs, even past speed runs on their channel. If you've especially never seen the Mexican runner, holy shit, that guy's a goddamn legend.
Yes.
But either way, that has been Mr. Video Games for the 420 2020. Thank you everyone for coming. Giant Pie, Coop, Kelverin, Nomi Cola. Hi, thank you, Merwin, of course, for dropping in that subscription here as we continue to trade back and forth our Amazon Prime to each other.
Yeah, that.
I have been Slacker Kite for your evening. Brian, any final words for this evening?
I guess I'll get plugs out of the way first. So you can read a lot of my work at outsports.com. I still have a piece for Pace Magazine that hasn't gone up yet. I think that might be going up soon, so keep your eye out for that. It's my last one there for a while. And then also, you can check out my queer wrestling podcast, LGBT in the Ring, every Thursday on the Outsports podcast network. Just search Outsports in your podcast app of choice, and it'll be there. It's a fun time, good. Follow me on Twitter at WonderboyOTM. And now that all of that shit that I feel really bad about talking about right now is out of the way, I just want everyone to continue to take care of one another and continue to not be dumbasses like Brian Kemp.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna throw that out there. Maybe don't go to the beach as soon as they reopen it. we're not out of the woods on this situation, and we have to continue to stay alone as a unit to make sure that we are keeping this stuff as under control as we can. So just take care of yourself, wash your hands, fucking wash your hands. And hopefully we'll still all be here. That was dour. Anyway, we will. We'll get through this. We'll get through it.
Marilyn, any final words?
I mean, y'all can follow me on Twitter at lmarowin. I haven't been streaming lately, been dealing with a lot of other stuff, but planning on getting back to that at some point soon, I hope. But yeah, like Brian said, we've got to stay alone together on this. And there has been a lot of really stupid stuff in the news about people deciding, oh yeah, no, we're going to reopen a mall that's directly across from a hospital that has had a major outbreak and is actually actively shipping people to other hospitals because they have no room. But, you don't have to be that dumb. And just be safe out there, okay, guys? Be cool, love each other from a socially distanced distance. And yeah, just take it easy. Try to stay calm.
All right. Always, I am Slacker Kite. Probably Sunday. I think I'm going to maybe stream some Celeste just for something to, do with my free time. So, you may get that this Sunday. We'll see how the week goes overall. But hey, thanks everyone as always for coming. Keep we have a lot of fun on the Discord, so if you're not on the Discord, feel free to join in. Thank you to all of our regulars for, as always, dropping in, keeping everything fun and happy, and have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye.